First of all, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I am so grateful that you're here amongst us. I think to inspire the next generation is something you've already been doing through your social media pages, which I know are very, very popular. A lot of people are inspired to follow your guidance and your paths to spirituality, which is amazing. Of course, as an individual, we've all been, my whole family, we are Vaishnavites, so we have been worshipping Krishna from when I was a child. And my late grandmother, in fact, took me to all the pilgrimages, which basically are synonymous with Krishna worship and bhakti. So I think the main essence of having you here is to soak in the bhakti which you have for Lord Krishna. And of course, he is divinity, but through him, obviously, we get blessings for the entire universe with our prayers to him and blessings from you. And I'm sure you will give a lot of insight into how the model youth and the next generation should live their lives ultimately in service of the Lord. So, on our conversation, of course, I would have a lot of things which I may personally want to ask you, but I would stick with things which probably most of the audience will understand, because I would love to have conversations on a lot of spiritual topics with you. And there are so many schools of thought in spirituality, namely you have Advaita, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita. I'm sure you're a PhD on all those things. And probably you may touch on them a bit in between. But in the meanwhile, obviously, as we would all like to know that there is something in our lives which are a turning point to come towards spirituality. Sometimes obviously it's karmic. It comes from our life, we believe, and it continues. But at the same time, there is an event in the current life which probably is kind of a catalyst to start this journey. So, can I ask you, when did this journey of yours begin and how?
Thank you very much, Yash, for this fantastic session. And it's so enlivening to see students at a young age being exposed to the concept of soul as a science. That's also something very, very revolutionary. And in my own case, I grew up in a South Indian traditional family, and our family is basically involved for several generations in worshipping and managing temples. So, from my mother's side, we take care of the Kalpati Lakshmi Narayan temple, and from my father's side, we take care of the Varadaraj Perumal temple in Alambalam in Palakkad. But then, as modernization happened, the families moved out of Kerala, went to other places, got education. So I grew up in a town called Bhilai in Chhattisgarh. And pre-Kota, that was the place where the maximum number of IITians would get produced. So the first IIT factory, JEE cracking factory happened there, which was in the 80s. So I was part of that because everybody in that town was engineered. But in the midst of all of that, I always had one burning question all through my childhood and even when I was entering into college. And that was, what is the meaning of death? So for me, it was a very fascinating topic for some reason. And I would always wonder, the world is into education. We are sitting here in one of the classic institutions for education, the Gopi Birla School. The whole idea of education is to equip students with the ability to solve problems. And across the world, an engineer is solving problems related to the pains you're experiencing in infrastructure, in technology, in distances, in weather, whatever different types of pains you experience, the education system is equipping you with specific skills to solve that particular problem. And people have created an economic system out of that whole problem solving mechanism. If I'm experiencing pain in my body, then I go to the medical industry, I go to the hospitals, I go to the doctor. So there is a pain which needs to be resolved. That problem is taken care by what we call as the doctor or the medical professional. He gets paid for it. I have my problem solved. And that's how society is moving. So whether it's an architect or a fund manager or a politician or a bureaucrat, anybody you name in this world are in professions where they are solving some particular problem. So the question in my mind, which was always like a pinprick, was, is there a solution to the problem of death? Is death a solvable problem, or it is impossible to solve the problem of death? As they say, as sure as death. So therefore, that was my main question which was haunting me for years together. And interestingly, when I was in my last year of college, I had a friend of mine who tried to commit suicide. And that's where it was a wake up call for me. And way back in 1992-93, honestly, suicides were not so common in the campuses. Things were still pretty okay with respect to mental health. So it was very surprising, and all the more surprising because this boy was like doing very well academically. He was like one of the toppers. So we asked him, why you tried to commit suicide? And he said, I'm always used to getting the gold medal, but I got the silver medal this time. I couldn't handle it. So that was shocking for us. That means even if you become number 2, that is not sufficient to keep you satisfied because your expectation is to be number 1. And then in the same exam, 4 or 5 of my other friends, they failed in 4 or 5 subjects in the same exam. And they were moving around the campus peacefully, blissfully, as if nothing happened. Blessing others also. Relax, be cool. So I asked these fellows, Arey, you are pretty shameless. You have failed in so many subjects, still you are going around happily. What is your philosophy in life? And their reply shocked me. They said, अपना philosophy simple है, college में घुसना अपना काम है, निकालना college का काम. हम क्यों टेंशन ले? That was the beginning of my realization that the root cause of all fear is change, and the root cause of all change is the gap between expectation and reality. The gap between expectation and reality is that change which causes the greatest fear. And hence, anybody who expects, why after the exam, before the results come, you are in anxiety? Because you are expecting a change. Something will change. In a relationship, when there is a feeling something is going to change in our relationship, it causes anxiety. When it comes to a promotion, an investment, or a business decision, any prospect of change causes that anxiety. So then I realized that when I came across the Bhagavad Gita, the exact answer was there. Small changes cause small fears. The biggest change will cause the biggest fear. And what is the biggest change? When the soul loses not a promotion, not a profit, not some kind of property, not a relationship, but when the soul loses the body, that is the biggest change. And that biggest change when the soul is stripped away from the body is what is known as death. And so Krishna says in Gita, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauganam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra na mohyati. That the body goes on changing, the soul doesn't change. At the time of death, the soul enters into another body, which is the process of reincarnation, and the soul accepts new bodies. And this entire process is described in the Gita as transmigration. And then the Gita says, you can solve the problem of death. And I said, wow, I never heard that. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody even discusses that. And then the Gita says, how do you solve the problem of death? When you realize that the thoughts at the moment of death decides your next life. Whatever is the most prominent thought at the moment of death, that will define your next body. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavatajantante kalevaram. Then Krishna says, death is an examination, life is a preparation. And therefore, the entire principle of spirituality is centered around that segment of society which is highly invested in planning for their journey beyond death. And this is something which is never properly communicated in social circles. People try to be cool and they never reveal the reality that temples, spiritual literature, spiritual holy people, holy places of pilgrimage, they are all meant for those who are seriously invested in planning for their specific journey beyond death. And that's what makes a spiritualist, a sadhu, a monk, any kind of, satsang different from a motivational speaker and a coach and a mentor. Because a motivational speaker, coach, mentor is only concerned with your journey till death. How to improve your life, how to improve your overall life facilities. And they never touch the principle of death. And therefore, I love your book here called The Soul Science, because this really brings to prominence a very important principle that the body will perish, but the soul continues its journey. And therefore, when you go on a vacation, you travel, you plan your travel. I'll go in summer to Switzerland, I'll go to Rishikesh, I'll go to Shimla, I'll go to New York. Just like you plan your travel for your body, that's called as tourism. Planning for where to take the soul after death is what is called as spirituality. So that's the whole idea which I got inspired by.
I think you put it amazingly, Prabhuji. And before I move to my next question, I would like to share with you, coincidentally, this topic of death, to me as an individual, has always fascinated me from, I think, when I was their age. So it was always a question that instead of reading in those days Vihari Boys and those kind of books, how am I reading things like Life After Death? Where there's a description of after that what you experience, and the people who come back to the world, they see a lovely golden light, angels, whatever the different interpretations. that concept or intrigue of that ultimately led me to read the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, and those things which actually explain the science of death. That intrigue is great, but it doesn't come very often to most people because we're all caught up in the material world and our duties. And this was also a concern sometimes I experienced in my growing years, where it was felt that uh, delving too much into these fears sometimes draws you away from what our karmas are, duties are, to student, businessman, whatever. So how do we find a balance between which is the substrata of everything we do, spirituality, but at the same time never forget what we are here for, is our dharma and our karma.
Thank you, Yash, for sharing your own experiences with the principle of death and being intrigued by that. And I can see that, that explains how there is a book called The Soul Science here. And you're exposing the children at a young age to our Sanatan Dharma tradition. I'll give an example to your question from the context of the students. Many of you are in your middle class, then you'll go to high school. And then after 12th standard, some of you may prepare for NIT, IITs, or medical colleges, whatever. So if there is a student who plans that after my 12th, I want to become a doctor, I want to give NEET exam. So that's eligibility for that is beyond 12th standard. But that student starts preparing in 9th standard. So if someone sees that student preparing in 9th standard, one may say, hey, this exam is going to come in 12th. Why are you preparing now? Said, if I have to be ready by 12th, I have to start preparing now. So it is not that the student in 9th standard who is going deeper into biology, studying other books, going to coaching classes, spending after school hours in coaching classes, is away from reality. No. That student is very intelligently and intensely planning for an entry into a specific institution after 12th, for which the preparation is starting now. So therefore, the purpose inspires the current investment of our time and energy. And today, what the student community and the youth especially need is a choice between two things. Material means pleasure driven, spiritual means purpose driven. And therefore, those educational institutions, teachers, parents who are able to handhold the children to lead a purpose driven life rather than a pleasure driven life, they will see a very different level of character and competence manifesting amongst them. And this, I feel, is a very major responsibility of all the guardians. So therefore, yes, you may have your goal towards what you are planning at the time of death, but you work backwards, and your present thoughts, your present choices, your present contemplation, your present commitment, your present convictions will determine your future content of what's going on in your mind.
Very well said. I think what for the students to understand that whatever deeds you're doing, there should always be a higher purpose. It should not be self-oriented in your words, and it should be always something which you're doing for a larger purpose, higher purpose. maybe for the community, maybe for the society. And I think that's the difference between individual goals and a goals driven for a higher purpose. I think you put it very well. The other question that I guess comes in a lot of people's mind is that to carry on thinking like this for a higher purpose, sometimes we get very caught up with the ego, what we say ourselves. So it's always recommended to follow some spiritual practices. Now, spiritual practices are varied today and age, and they have their own interpretation. They have different religions, paths. I do believe ultimately they all lead to the same goal, which is realization. But at the same time, specifically talking about what I've experienced at ISKCON, and there are some other institutions. There is something, we have pranayam, we have meditation, and then we have what ISKCON always believes in is chanting the name of the Lord.
Right.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. And then that is believed to be potent enough to basically get you to that state of awareness.
Sure.
How would you opine on this, that a lot of faiths think of a formless, nameless God, and a lot of faiths talk about going into yourself within, where God is outside and within. And then you have Krishna consciousness, where you talk about a form, a name, and the bhakti and the devotion, which is a little different from these other things. And my question would be, so that you can explain that if somebody chooses a path to follow, the children here, the young adults here, how would you suggest them to start?
Thank you, Yash. That's a beautiful question. I want to simplify and demystify spirituality. How many of you have been to the hospital? Raise your hands. Seen a hospital. So what is hospital meant for? Thank you. Hospital is meant for treating the pain of the body. When you have pain in the body, you go to the hospital, meet the doctor, take the medicine. It eradicates the pain of the body. How many of you have been to temples or any places of worship in all traditions? Thank you. The temple in Sanskrit and Hindi is known by what name? Mandir. What does the word come? Man. Man means mind. Therefore, Gita says, temple is nothing but a hospital for the mind. Hospitals are important or not? So, a hospital for the mind means that which is created to help treat the pain in the mind. What are the pains which generate in the mind? Krodha, anger, dvesha, envy, kama, lust, lobha, greed, pride, illusion. All of these anxieties, insecurities, 370 suicides happening every single day in India. 400 million people across the world experiencing depression symptoms. These are all realities, which means that's a pain in the mind also. I visited my friend in hospital ICU. He got a heart attack, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He said, "I was expecting a promotion, but somebody else was given promotion who was junior to me. And the worst part was I was the one who recruited him. And he became my boss." The education system is teaching you how to get that position. The education system currently designed is not equipped to help you deal with a situation where someone else gets that position. Therefore, I really like this introduction on the soul science curriculum in the Gopi Birla school and in your open minds, where You are integrating success with happiness. And my dear friends, what's the difference between success and happiness? Success is to get what you like, and happiness is to like what you get. And there's a huge difference between the two.
Hmm.
So, therefore, to answer your query, all the places of worship, whether it's temple, mosque, synagogue, church, Gurdwara, all these are places of worship. They're all dealing with only one principle: how to relieve the pain of the mind. So, just like in pain of the body, there is option of allopathy, naturopathy, homeopathy, so many different types. Similarly, to relieve the pain of the mind also, there are various options and varieties. And therefore, these varieties can be fitted into 5 categories. If you feel I'm getting too confused with this philosophy and this one and that one, it's actually very simple. What are the 5 things which spirituality deals with? Step 1: where is my soul now in this world? Step 2: what should be the destination for my soul? Step 3: what are the experiences I will get when I reach that destination? Step 4: what is the best, easiest, fastest path for me to reach that destination? And step 5: what are the obstacles in my journey? So, spirituality, whether it is in Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, any kind of tradition is only dealing with these 5 steps. And one who understands the core principles will never get bewildered. Because if you open Make My Trip, you will get a million options of where to travel. But ultimately, these are the main principles. So rather than getting caught up in the jargon and the details, you should understand the principles. That yes, just like I'm interested in taking my body on a journey during vacation, I can plan for that. Similarly, there is a process by which I can plan for the journey of my soul beyond death. And that is described in terms of these 5 steps. So, in these 5 steps, as soon as one element changes, the name of that philosophy changes. Even within Hinduism, you change the experience on reaching the destination from person to imperson. So, it becomes from Dvaita to Advaita. So, you just change these 5 elements and parameters a little bit, you get millions of shades of different philosophies. So, therefore, I tell people rather than fighting over I am better, you are not better, this, that, accept that there are multiple destinations and experiences which can be sought by multiple souls. And spirituality across traditions is simply giving everybody choices. That's all. So, why to fight over all of this? When you get that holistic perspective, then you'll understand that yes, there is no point losing sleep over what is better or what is not better. We have to make our choice.
Very well said. Thank you. So, obviously, the students go through a lot of stress and anxiety a lot of times in a structured environment where they're expected to perform, do well, and there's a particular system they have to follow. Then there is certain amount of creativity which they have to have, which is probably away from the system. So, what would be your advice? How do they deal with this in the moment of stress? which is not manageable sometimes, and follow the system, but also stick with a creative approach to whatever they are doing.
I'll recommend the ABCD of spirituality. A for association. Associate with like minded people who help you become more resilient, who help you become more focused, and help you develop the 8 life skills: purpose, focus, habits, relationships, determination, discrimination, humility, and tolerance. Develop these in that association. Second, B for books. Study the books, read the books, read literatures which help you move in that direction. C for chanting or contemplation. Take out some time every day so that you are able to connect the soul with the super soul. So the all spiritual traditions speak about 5 things only: Ishwar, the controller; Jeev, the soul; Prakriti, nature; Kala, time; and Karma, action. Life is nothing but a synergy between these 5. Jeev is the soul. When the Jeev wants to control Prakriti, nature, under the influence of time, Kala, and engage in action to exploit and enjoy, that is technically known as bhoga. Then when that soul realizes that all my efforts are failing, I need to connect with someone above me. When the soul looks up, he sees this Ishwara. When the soul connects with Ishwar, that is called yoga. So the soul science is how the soul Jiva needs to first connect with Ishwar through yoga, and then look at Prakriti as a property of Ishwar, Kala as the property of Ishwar, and engage in karma for the pleasure of the Ishwar in a manner of selflessness. All these things require the C, which is contemplation, connection, collaboration, chanting. And then when you do through all of this, the fourth thing which supports this contemplation is the D, which is diet. So when people ask me, should I be this, should I be that, I say, Baba, first define your purpose. A boxer's diet will be different from a gymnast's diet. If a gymnast starts eating boxer's diet, he cannot make somersault. And if a boxer eats gymnast's diet, he cannot stand in the boxing ring. Therefore, first define your purpose. And if your purpose is to be in the mode of goodness and have a mindset which facilitates contemplation and meditation and yoga and peace and harmony and synergy, then there is a diet which is recommended for that. Therefore, if you are not interested in that spiritual journey, if you are not interested to bring your mind and senses under your perfect control, if you are happy to be a victim of circumstances and to be smashed by various desires like a typhoon within your mind, then there is no need to be so picky about your diet. But if you are a person who likes full control over your thoughts, your desires, your actions, your habits, and you like to be self-disciplined, because discipline is the fusion of intention with action, if you are interested in that, then you have to choose a diet, and that is recommended in the Gita for those who are interested in that outcome. So diet is very much dependent on the outcome you intend. Association A, B, books, C, chanting, and D, diet. So this is something which I want to share.
Very well said. Actually, we should also give spontaneous chance for the students to ask. So, a diet is a very important thing you mentioned. There is also today a lot of intoxication which youngsters go through, and it's the choice which is if you're free with whether you entertain it or not. Um, of course, before you touch on the topic of intoxication, um, the right diet may be a question, a large topic. But does anybody here have a question on that? Anybody can ask, what do you feel in response to Prabhuji saying that the diet is an important thing, which I think applies to all of us and to all of you all. Does anybody have a question? Yeah, he has a question, so just give him a
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Prabhu.
What's your name?
My name is Gian Jatania. My name is Gian Jatania. So my question to you, sir, is that how can we balance our emotions effectively in order to foster a more harmonious and effective life?
Fantastic. Yes. Great question. How to balance your emotions? You can have a seat. Thank you. Emotions are the outpouring of the mind. The sun gives rise to sunshine. Like that, the mind gives rise to emotions. Therefore, in Sanskrit, emotions are known as bhavana. Mind is known as man. Man. So from the mind, the emotions manifest. So there are 4 levels at which you have to control the intentions in the mind by which your emotions will be affected. Like if I want to switch off that fan, I will go to the switch. So depending on whether I move the switch to off or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, the speed of the fan will be regulated. What is that regulator of emotions? If the emotions need to be regulated from off to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, that regulator of emotions is known as intention. So there are 4 levels of intention. Lowest is intention arising out of mode of ignorance, tamogun, out of fear. Which means, why should I go to school? Oh, if I don't go to school, I will fail. And if someone says, 12th के बाद क्या करना है आपको? अब बोलो, आर्थर रोड जेल नहीं जाना है. So that's not a very high level of ambition. It's very negative. It is negatively driven. It is fear driven. Why are you attending class? If I don't attend class, teacher will become angry. Father or mother will become upset. That's why I'm attending class. It's the lowest level. Intention inspired by fear. Higher than that, mode of passion is the intention driven by desire. Desire, ichha. That if I get this degree, I will get this much of money and then I will become like this and that. That's little higher. But still, that arises, that creates a lot of anxiety. Rather than a collaborative mindset, you are into a competitive mindset. And that also results in anxiety. Next level, above tamogun, fear, rajogun, desire, is sattvagun, which is intention inspired by a sense of duty. I'm going to do this because it's my duty. I tell the story when I joined the ashram, I was sent to the kitchen to serve in 1993. After a week or so, one more brahmachari came and joined. He was also sent to the kitchen to serve. And he was serving with me. After 4 or 5 days, he came up to me and started complaining. Arey, what is this? You guys have sent me to the kitchen. I am such a big speaker. I joined ISKCON so that I can speak about Sanatan Dharma, become a preacher. मैं प्रचार करने ISKCON में आया, चपाती बनाने नहीं. So I said, why you are telling me? I am also making chapati only. So what is the point you and me discussing? He said, no, I am very upset that you guys are not recognizing my talent. He kept on complaining every week, every 2 weeks. After a month, he took his bag and said, I'm going. I said, where are you going? He said, you didn't recognize my talent. मैं कथा करने आया, चपाती बनाने नहीं. 10 years later, he met me at a program. He came running up to me and he said, after I left the temple, I got married. After marriage, my wife got back pain. घर पे रोज चपाती मैं ही बनाता. So many times, when we are faced with a difficult situation, we think, let me take the easy way out. But duty means sometimes it may be very painful, but I perform the duty. I'm duty bound. That's mode of goodness. Fourth level of intention above fear, desire, and duty is love, which is the highest. As soon as you hear love, you may think, oh, love story, love songs, Bollywood, Hollywood love. No, this is totally different. Love doesn't mean pleasure, love means pain. Pragana premer e savava acha nijidukka vignadir noko vichar. Lust means selfishness. Love means selflessness. And therefore, love means in every relationship there are 4 major challenges. There will be scarcity, impediment, discomfort, unhappiness. Still the relationship continues. It is called love. And therefore, when you speak about emotions being under control and in harmony, the more we tune ourselves to live lives inspired by love, selflessness, to that extent, you may be experiencing pain to express love to others, but that selfless service will fill your mind and heart with a deep sense of joy and satisfaction, which is only got to be experienced to be believed. Okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Prabhuji. My question is for Mr. Yash Birla. So, what inspired you to incorporate soul science as a subject in Aston curriculum?
So good question. I do feel the modern education system is brilliant, but sometimes we are forgetting what our tradition and culture started with. So you all have heard about the Gurukul system where education where Even the Ks used to send their children to learn the Veda, the Shastra, what are those spiritual books at that time were there. Uh, so I do feel that without understands exactly what Prabhuji's been talking. Uh, if we just academically study something and we don't study the higher purpose behind whatever we are made to learn here, then our education is incomplete. And to some extent less satisfying. Uh, Soul Science also something is about how I feel there is a code of conduct in life. Of course, we all have a choice, and there's no right, wrong, exactly. But there's a particular code of conduct which kind of makes immoral fire into following a higher purpose. Again, something already talking. So, let's say practically to make it a little more day-to-day life oriented uh, for all of you. So today you have situations where we have, okay, we talked about now. So you have an increased rate of divorces in this country all over compared to what it was probably 2 decades ago. Relationships, dating. I think people feel they are loved and suddenly after a few days you think, oh, that's not what I wanted. And then you walk away. The point of coming to there is a few commitments you have in life, which comes from your mind, intellect, and ultimately the soul. And unless you learn to connect to those three layers, everything is impulsive. Okay, I don't like it. Bye bye. Your heart, like how I perceived you to be. I thought you do this for me. Bye bye. So that brings us to Prabhuji's really important point. What is selfless? Selfless is not what I'm expecting from me, but what the joy I'm getting by giving it to you. I'm talking in a relationship, in whatever relationship. Now, this relationship could be not only husband, wife, dating, lovers, whatever you call it. It could also be parent, child. It could also be brother, sister. Every relationship has its duty as long as you learn to accept the person and love that person irrespective of your expectations. Why I touched on this point when you asked this lovely question. So, through soul science, we have to learn to live life to the fullest, not only spiritually, but also practical. How we apply these spiritual concepts to our day-to-day life. So, this is just one example I gave today about relationships and commitment because it's Abuji with Tacha. There are a lot of other topics which you can probably gain from a soul sciences. I touched on the topic for intoxication with you.
Yeah.
So obviously there are a lot of theories. Why is it good or why is it bad for you? Would you like to elaborate?
You first share your thoughts.
So, Kilavi. So, my point is okay. I'll tell you my thoughts on this. So again, choices are everybody. And again, I must repeat, there's no judgment here. I'm not judging anybody who does whatever. I've grown up in an environment, I was a cathedral school. So I grew up in an environment that was very socially acceptable. You go out, you have a drink, and that's how you enjoy. Um, I just chose to think differently because I thought true enjoyment, even if I go out, is not kind of subduing my intellect or my mind to enjoy. Because if I'm not enjoying from within, then what's the purpose of being there? So whenever anyone told me that it's my birthday, let's celebrate and have whatever sip of champagne or whatever, I would say no, because that's not how I would like to celebrate your birthday. I would like to celebrate it with joy from within. Otherwise, why am I here? So these are the choices you make after you understand what a higher purpose is. That till day I've never tasted alcohol. I'm always read over face. Not that I feel there's again no right and wrong, but it's something which I believe prevent me from a higher purpose. And I think a lot of people miss that point. Uh, there's another example of this also. So I love physical fitness. I love going to gym. So everyone said you need a lot of protein, something which is very common. So they said that for protein, you need to eat non-vegetarian food. And I've always grown up as a vegetarian and I don't even consume eggs. So I said, for what reason do I need protein from non-vegetarian food? So everybody, a lot of my fitness trainers recommend you must start having eggs at peace, not more. I said no, because I'll work probably a little harder at the gym if I want to. I'll be more controlled in my diet if I have to. And there is enough protein in vegetarian food. In fact, rice and dal, chamar, is a complete source of protein, amino acid, and protein. Again, these are practical examples of what we believe and what we live. Studying this book, scriptures, ultimately make you understand why. Otherwise, we're just doing something as a system. When you read scriptures or knowledge in our life, which has been handed down to generations, uh, then you actually know why somebody's saying that. It's not just because you're saying you follow it, but you say you follow it because you really want to believe. So that's the purpose.
Fantastic. I think I would say that one of the most important points which Yash you shared is how when you were given a choice between pleasure and purpose, you chose purpose. That's what our whole theme was all about. I wanted to just ask one small clarification. I just heard from one of your team members you're running something known as open minds. So, what's that concept all about?
So basically, this is Gopi Vira School, which is an entity by itself, established by my great grandfather. This is there from, what is the inception date? You third. Sir. 93. But what we lay is he started a group of schools for Birla in Minds, which are basically now almost 150 number,
Okay.
which are spread across the country. Some are our own run schools, and some we also do it as a franchise for people who are passionate of to run in education institutions, want to impart education, but probably don't have the knowledge, capability doing so. So we have team who actually makes a curriculum, teaches the teachers how to teach, rice key books also, which form part of the curriculum. And so these schools are expanding, but franchise model expand very quicker than if you have individual school.
Just one question is when you say open minds, it includes subjects like the soul science and all of that stuff.
So soul dance and originally for open mind. Oh, that was very insistent. It was my idea that as she asked, as there should be something beyond what every school is teaching in the regular Monday. We have to teach that, and this is something in addition I want. The other thing which I insisted on that, I went to Catholic school. So when they had a subject moral science, we thought with the free kids is to fit and laugh and joke and hop out of the classroom. Because we were not graded. I was not graded on moral science. I was not given my final report. So we insisted that soul science should be great so that children actually take it serious. Those who are graded take things serious. So this one introduced and build out in my Sipanti Gopi Birla later on.
Okay, fantastic.
Wonderful.
It's very inspiring because I think the modern education system definitely needs, along with the Indian knowledge system, which has been integrated in the NEP 2020, I think this is a fantastic addition in practice.
Okay, Prabhuji is given a lot of time, and of course, his time is very precious to us. So we'll just go quickly over some. Some quick questions. Maybe if you have some long minutes, we go to one phrase, which is then we'll can chat about it. So if you could recommend one book that a reader should read,
Bhagavad Gita.
lovely. Besides Srila Prabhupada, who was deeply inspired in your spiritual journey, can you mention any other first?
Radhanath Swami.
Right. who has written a brilliant book, I must tell everybody, which is an autobiography of an American Swami. Correct.
The Journey Home.
The Journey Home. And that's the name, and it's written in an autobiography of American Swami, which is actually brilliant because he has talked about his journey. He started from the United States as a student, like all of you, and how it finally came to Vrindavan and Krishna consciousness. So the Lali of which place in India will give you the most sense of peace and belonging? Think
Vrindavan.
I am today. What's the best piece of advice someone has given you? I know you give everybody advice and lovely advice, beautiful. We all are grateful for that. What is somebody giving you advice?
Be tolerant in face of provocation. Be tolerant in the face of provocation. All of us are provoked, every day and by so many things, but be tolerant.
Lovely. Well, one song, movie, piece of art, could be anything from any spectrum of the entertainment world. Would you have my school experience?
I really loved that song, which when I was in school, I saw in the movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. Itni Shakti Hame De Lagata. I don't know whether this generation has heard that song.
Yes.
Has that? Of your school? Here? Oh, wow. I didn't know this.
See, the coincidences don't happen. They're meant to think. Okay, that's lovely. That's a beautiful song, actually. Yeah. If you could make one change to the education system, what would it be?
Add the concept of spirituality in a holistic manner.
I think something good.
I think soul science really inspired me and
Thank
beautiful.
If you could describe India in just one word, what would you say?
Harmony. Otherwise, how can you manage such diversity in one country? It's so many countries put into one in terms of languages and cuisines and everything.
Beautiful. We have one small section which we can do it only for a minute instead of a discussion. Is we take up a passage from here.
Sure.
And giving your view about control your thought process requires time, but is it worthwhile? Is what they have given as a phrase for students and the teachers to discuss.
Page number 20.
Page number 20. Learning to control your thoughts process requires time, but is it worthwhile?
Learning to control your thought process requires time, but is it worthwhile? Yes. If you have the best of Mercedes car, but you're stuck in a heavy office time traffic jam spread over 3 kilometers, even with the best of the Mercedes, you will not make much movement. Therefore, your ambitions are like that Mercedes Benz. It may be moving, it has the potential to move at high speed, but if it is stuck in the traffic jam of clutter of other thoughts, where will it go? So therefore, the meditation and contemplation clears the traffic of the clutter in the mind, and then the ambition of your Mercedes can go at 140 kilometers per hour and reach the destination. Therefore, meditate.
There you go. Thank you, Prabhuji, so much for your time.
You first share your thoughts.
And one thing I've learned in the scriptures is the best way to spend your time is to be with devotees, people who talk about spiritual things, and also who love the divine. And I think what better time spent than time with you. I think that's a blessing by itself.
Thank you.
And I would like to we have express my gratitude, of course, by touching your. Cool. I think in our scripture again written that when I get your blessing, it's like an energy circuit being powered for you. So
Thank you. Thank you so much.